Hello everyone, and welcome back to the History of the Ancient World channel. Today, we're journeying back in time to a land nestled between two rivers, a place often called the cradle of civilization. We're talking about Mesopotamia, the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, in what is modern-day Iraq and parts of Syria, Turkey, and Iran. This region wasn't just a geographical location, it was a melting pot of innovation, culture, and power that shaped the course of human history for thousands of years. From the world's first cities to the invention of writing, from groundbreaking laws to epic myths, Mesopotamia's legacy is all around us. So grab your virtual passport because we're about to embark on an incredible exploration of the rise and fall of ancient Mesopotamia's great empires. Our story begins around 10,000 BC, when early humans in the Fertile Crescent began to shift from a nomadic hunter-gatherer lifestyle to a settled agricultural one. This Neolithic revolution was a game changer. By domesticating plants like wheat and barley and animals like sheep and goats, people could produce a surplus of food. This surplus didn't just mean less time spent searching for meals, it meant populations could grow and permanent villages could be established. Life was still tough, but for the first time, communities had a stable foundation upon which to build something bigger. These early farming villages, like Jarmo and Catalhoyuk, were the seeds from which the great cities of Mesopotamia would eventually sprout. They laid the groundwork for complex societies by developing new tools, pottery for storage, and the very beginnings of social organization. It was a slow, long process, but this agricultural revolution set the stage for everything that was to come. Fast forward a few thousand years to around 4000 BC, and we arrive at the dawn of the Sumerians in southern Mesopotamia. This is where things really start to get interesting. The Sumerians weren't a unified empire, but a collection of independent city-states, each with its own ruler and patron deity. Think of cities like Uruk, Ur, Eridu, and Lagash. Uruk, for example, is often cited as the world's first true city, growing to a massive size with tens of thousands of inhabitants. To manage such a complex society, the Sumerians needed a system. And what a system they created! They developed intricate irrigation canals to control the unpredictable floods of the Tigris and Euphrates, turning the arid land into a fertile paradise. They built monumental temples called ziggurats, towering step pyramids dedicated to their gods, which served as the religious, economic, and administrative heart of the city. The priests and rulers who controlled these temples held immense power, managing the city's grain stores and directing labor. But perhaps the Sumerians' most profound invention, the one that truly changed the world, was writing. Around 3500 BC, as trade and administration became more complex, they needed a way to keep records. This led to the development of cuneiform, a script made of wedge-shaped marks pressed into wet clay tablets with a reed stylus. Initially used for simple accounting, tracking grain, livestock, and goods, cuneiform evolved into a sophisticated writing system capable of recording laws, literature, history, and personal letters. The Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the world's oldest surviving works of literature, was written in cuneiform. This invention was a quantum leap for humanity. It allowed knowledge to be passed down accurately across generations, marking the transition from prehistory to history. The Sumerians also gave us the wheel, the plow, the sailboat, and even the 60-second minute and 60-minute hour we still use today. Their innovations were nothing short of revolutionary. As the Sumerian city-states vied for power and resources, the political landscape of Mesopotamia was constantly shifting. This period of rivalry eventually paved the way for the world's first empire. Around 2334 BC, a man of humble origins named Sargon of Akkad rose to power. He wasn't a Sumerian but came from a Semitic-speaking people to the north. Through a series of brilliant military campaigns, Sargon conquered the Sumerian city-states one by one and united them under his rule, creating the Akkadian Empire. This was a new concept, a large, multi-ethnic, centrally governed state. Sargon established his capital at Akkad, a city whose exact location is still a mystery to archaeologists. He standardized weights and measures, created a postal system, and built a standing army to maintain control over his vast territory, which stretched from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean Sea. The Akkadian Empire was a model for future empires, but its dominance was relatively short-lived. After about 150 years, a combination of internal rebellions and external pressures, possibly exacerbated by a severe drought, led to its collapse. Following the fall of Akkad, the Sumerian cities experienced a brief resurgence known as the Third Dynasty of Ur. Under rulers like Ur-Nammu, there was a renaissance of Sumerian culture. Ur-Nammu is famous for creating one of the earliest known law codes, predating the more famous Code of Hammurabi. He also oversaw the construction of the Great Ziggurat of Ur, a magnificent structure whose ruins still stand today. However, this Sumerian revival was also temporary. By around 2004 BC, invasions from the Elamites and Amorites brought the era of Sumerian dominance to a final close. But their cultural and technological legacy was so powerful that it would be adopted and adapted by every subsequent civilization that rose in Mesopotamia. The Sumerians may have disappeared as a political entity, but their ideas were immortal. Now let's move into the 2nd millennium BC and talk about one of the most famous names from the ancient world, Hammurabi. After the Sumerian collapse, power shifted to new city-states, most notably Babylon. The Amorites had settled throughout Mesopotamia, and one of their chieftains established a dynasty in this small city. For a while, Babylon was just one of many competing powers. That all changed with its 6th king, Hammurabi, who reigned from 1792 to 1750 BC. Hammurabi was a master strategist and diplomat. Through a series of shrewd alliances and decisive military victories, he systematically conquered his rivals and unified all of southern Mesopotamia under Babylonian rule. He created the First Babylonian Empire. But Hammurabi's fame doesn't just rest on his military prowess. He was also a brilliant administrator who wanted to bring order and justice to his kingdom. His most enduring legacy is the Code of Hammurabi, a set of 282 laws inscribed on a massive stone stele or pillar. The code was set up in public for all to see, based on the principle that the law should be known and applied to everyone, though punishments often varied based on social class. It covered a wide range of issues, from commercial transactions and family law to assault and theft. The famous principle of an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, comes from this code, representing a form of retaliatory justice. While it might seem harsh by today's standards, it was a significant step towards a society governed by written law rather than the whims of a ruler. Under Hammurabi, Babylon became a major center of trade, religion, and culture. But like the empires before it, the First Babylonian Empire eventually weakened and was sacked by the Hittites in 1595 BC, plunging the region into a period of fragmentation. For the next several centuries, Mesopotamia was a complex web of competing powers, including the Kassites, the Hittites, and the rising power in the north, Assyria. The Assyrians, from their heartland around the city of Ashur on the upper Tigris, had long been a part of the Mesopotamian world. They were hardened by their location on an open plain, constantly facing threats from neighboring peoples. This forged them into a formidable military society. By the 9th century BC, they began a period of expansion that would create the largest empire the world had yet seen. The Neo-Assyrian Empire was built on military might. They were masters of siege warfare, using battering rams, siege towers, and sappers to undermine city walls. Their armies were well organized, disciplined, and utterly ruthless. They used terror as a weapon, deporting entire populations from conquered lands to break their spirit and prevent rebellion. But the Assyrians were more than just warriors. They were also skilled administrators who governed their vast empire with remarkable efficiency. They built a network of roads with relay stations for royal messengers, allowing for rapid communication across the empire. Great kings like Ashurbanipal were not just conquerors but also patrons of culture and learning. In his capital at Nineveh, Ashurbanipal created a magnificent library, collecting tens of thousands of cuneiform tablets from all over Mesopotamia. He actively sought to preserve the literary and scientific knowledge of the past, including the Epic of Gilgamesh. Thanks to the discovery of his library in the 19th century, we know much of what we know today about Mesopotamian history and culture. Despite its power, the Assyrian Empire's cruelty created many enemies. In 612 BC, a coalition of Babylonians and Medes sacked Nineveh, bringing the mighty Assyrian Empire to a dramatic and violent end. The fall of Assyria created a power vacuum, and Babylon rose once more to fill it. This period is known as the Neo-Babylonian or Chaldean Empire. Its most famous ruler was Nebuchadnezzar II, who reigned from 605 to 562 BC. Nebuchadnezzar is renowned for his ambitious building projects, which transformed Babylon into one of the most magnificent cities of the ancient world. He constructed the legendary Ishtar Gate, a stunning gateway decorated with blue glazed bricks and depictions of dragons and bulls, which is now partially reconstructed in a Berlin museum. He also built the massive ziggurat that may have inspired the biblical story of the Tower of Babel. And according to tradition, he built the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, for his homesick wife. Under Nebuchadnezzar, Babylon became a center of astronomy and mathematics. Babylonian astronomers meticulously charted the stars, developed the zodiac, and could even predict eclipses. Their mathematical knowledge was equally advanced. However, the glory of the Neo-Babylonian Empire was to be the final chapter for an independent Mesopotamia. Nebuchadnezzar's successors were weak, and a new power was rising in the east: the Persians. In 539 BC, Cyrus the Great, the founder of the Achaemenid Persian Empire, marched on Babylon. In a famously swift and bloodless conquest, the city fell and Mesopotamia became a province of the vast Persian Empire. While the Persians largely respected Mesopotamian culture and institutions, the age of Mesopotamian dominance was over. The land between the rivers would later be conquered by Alexander the Great, and then ruled by a succession of foreign powers. The ancient cities dwindled, the cuneiform script fell out of use, and the knowledge of this incredible civilization was lost to time, buried beneath the sands of Iraq. It wasn't until the 19th century that archaeologists began to excavate the great mounds of Mesopotamia and decipher the cuneiform tablets, rediscovering this lost world. What they found was a civilization that laid the foundations for so much of our own. From writing and law to science and urban living, the innovations of the Sumerians, Akkadians, Babylonians, and Assyrians have echoed through the millennia. They were the original pioneers, the first to grapple with the challenges of building a complex society on a grand scale. Their story is a powerful reminder that the roots of our modern world run deep, back to the fertile soil between 2 rivers. Thank you for joining us on this journey through ancient Mesopotamia. I hope you found it as fascinating as I do. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to History of the Ancient World and hit the notification bell so you won't miss our next adventure into the past. Let us know in the comments which ancient civilization you'd like us to explore next. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.